So is Mortal Kombat 2 a flawless victory or a fatality? Well, I went and saw it last night, and we're going to talk about it. So pop that tape in. I got you. Let's go do this.
It's showtime.
Alright, so Mortal Kombat 2, I went and saw a late night screening last night. I took my son, and I'll be honest, the both of us left with big stupid grins on our faces. And before I get into the movie itself, I want to establish something important here because the reviews I've been seeing are kind of fascinating to me and not really in a good way. Because a significant portion of the critics are either very, I don't want to say pretentious, but maybe a little self-important, or they are younger viewers who don't really understand this film. It's too cheesy. It's too shallow. The dialogue is bad. The CGI is uneven. Not enough depth. Not enough meaning to it. And here's what I keep really thinking and kind of going into when I hear those reviews. They just don't get it. And not because they're stupid and not because it's not made for them or anything else, but because they didn't grow up with the kind of films this movie is really paying tribute to. If you were a kid in the 80s or a teenager in the 90s even, if you rented Bloodsport on VHS, if you rented Kickboxer and watched it at a friend's sleepover, or if you saw the original Mortal Kombat in 1995 and thought it was the greatest thing ever committed to celluloid, a video game brought to life, then you have the exact cultural context to understand what Mortal Kombat 2026 is doing and why it actually works. If you came from the age of Christopher Nolan where everything was dark and psychological and meaningful, or if your frame of reference for action movies is mostly the MCU at its most self-serious and hero deconstructing pretentiousness, then you're going to watch this film and see complete incompetence where you should actually be seeing the filmmaker's craft that they put into this. Yes, actual craft. But that gap, that generational disconnect right there, that's one of the most interesting things that I'm seeing about Mortal Kombat 2026, and almost nobody is talking about it. So what the film actually is, let's talk about it for a second, because I'll tell you whether or not it works. Mortal Kombat 2026 is deliberately, lovingly, purposely made for B-movie loving, old school action film traditionalist. I mean, it really knows exactly what it is. It's completely self-aware about what it is, and it doesn't apologize for it. Not for 1 second. A matter of fact, it commits to it with total confidence and not a single moment of embarrassment, and that it's in and of itself you have to appreciate, particularly today. It has cheesy dialogue on purpose. It has over-the-top one-liners on purpose. It has visual aesthetic that in certain moments looks deliberately like a video game, 2D, kind of scrolling from side to side. And it does that on purpose. All of that is not trying to be The Dark Knight. It's not trying to be Oppenheimer. It's trying to be Bloodsport crossed with the 1995 original Mortal Kombat, crossed with a love letter to every gloriously dumb 80s and 90s B-movie action film that your older brother or your dad made you watch when you were somewhere around 9-10 years old. And that, in 2026, is a genuinely radical concept. Because Hollywood stopped making films like these. And not because we stopped wanting them as audiences, or even because they weren't successful. It's because studios got too self-important, too scared of critical ridicule, too scared of offending anyone or not being taken seriously. They forgot to make movies. They forgot completely how to make movies that just had fun without apologizing for it. Mortal Kombat 2026 apologizes for nothing. Not once does it apologize for what it is. And that alone makes it worth your time. Now let's talk about something else, an old school hero's journey. Yes, there is one in this. All old school movie storytelling back to Achilles and the Odyssey, and we'll get to those eventually, I promise you. But from time immemorial, there was an old school hero's journey. That's how you told stories. Mortal Kombat has it, because underneath all the cheese, all the one-liners, the video game CGI, you have an actual hero's journey executed here with Karl Urban's Johnny Cage. And it's executed in an old school way. Before Hollywood decided that was passé, we can't do that, we need to deconstruct heroes. They need to be broken down and morally gray and ambiguous and all of that before you ever allow them to think about being heroic. But here, Karl Urban plays Johnny Cage, and he is perfect for this character, in my opinion, because he is playing a 80s and 90s washed up version of Johnny Cage in this. He's not doing arena fights anymore. He's not doing the B movies or any of that. He's not headlining blockbusters in any way. He's sitting at a folding table at a small fan convention, signing autographs for the 3 people who still remember who he is. He is just kind of given up, not in an angst or self-pity deconstructing kind of way. He's just done. He's just quietly getting through his days, not having reached everything that he wanted to. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, Raiden and Sonya Blade show up and tell him the gods have reached down and chosen you to fight as one of Earth's champions to help save the world in Mortal Kombat. He doesn't believe it. Who would? So he runs from it. He argues with it. He hides from it. He does everything a normal human being would do when someone tells them the fate of the earth rests on their shoulders. But then he steps up anyway. Not because he suddenly becomes a different person, not because he was deconstructed and then lifted back up, but because he discovers the champion was always there, underneath the washed up convention circuit version of himself that he has become. It was there. He just needed a reason. He needed a little perspective to pull it out. That is the classic hero's journey. That is Luke Skywalker not wanting to leave Tatooine. That is Pete Venkman not believing in ghosts until one jumped out at him in a library. That is the structure that worked in 1977. It worked in 1984. It works today when someone actually commits to it instead of trying to subvert it by subverting your expectations. How many times have you heard that again and again? When all you do is subvert expectations, there is no such thing as subverting expectations anymore. Here, Karl Urban commits to it completely. I love him in this. His Johnny Cage is funny. He's reluctant in a way that kind of grounds the entire film because he reacts to it like you would. Like, what the hell? You people are crazy. Get me out of here. So you root for him immediately because he also represents that bygone era of the 80s and 90s that a lot of people who love these types of movies loved back then and grew up on. And that matters more than any fight sequence or special effects in the movie. But speaking of fight sequences, there is one that kind of encapsulates this whole movie, and it is the fight scene between Baraka and Johnny Cage. And I'm not going to give away all the details here, but for anyone who doesn't know the game, Baraka is a monstrous creature, blades coming out of his arm and terrifying in the lore, all of those kind of things. Not someone you would expect to be in a scene that turns out to be kind of comedic, and yet the fight between Johnny Cage and Baraka is hilarious the whole time. Self-aware, committed to the whole bit. Johnny Cage, he can fight, but he'd rather run, hide. There's jokes in there. He's got all of his style, all of his flash. He is much more showmanship than substance at this point. He doesn't believe in the real martial artist that he used to be. So he's running, hiding, and then he finally has to stand and fight. And he uses some of his B-movie action moves that he has, and it kind of mesmerizes Baraka until he drops and delivers his famous crotch punch. And it was at that point the whole theater absolutely lost it. Everyone was like cheering. You heard an audible reaction being pulled out of you. And then a big turn happens, and even Baraka himself, one of the most terrifying creatures that you can look at, he responds to that showmanship just like you in the audience. He appreciates it. He sees almost a kindred spirit that he wants to learn from. He thinks this is the coolest damn thing he has ever seen, and so did everybody watching the movie. And so he ends up helping the Earth's champions. Now that scene could not exist in a movie that takes itself way too seriously, full of pretension, looking for deeper meaning and all of that. A film that is embarrassed by its own premise, it could not pull that off. This film, it works because everyone involved, the writers, the directors, the actors, everyone playing on both sides of the fight are fully committed to the bit. They understand that sometimes the most powerful thing a movie can do is make you laugh and cheer at the same time. That scene is this movie in a miniature, and it's exactly why we walked out of the theater grinning. But remember when I talked about that disconnect, there is a disconnect here, and at first I thought it was someone kind of just having a go at it, and then I realized I saw it on several different reviews. And this has to be addressed specifically because I've seen critics calling this moment out as bad filmmaking, and it's the opposite of bad filmmaking. Early in the film, we see a fight scene sequence that looks genuinely terrible. It looks genuinely terrible. The punches aren't landing. Matter of fact, they're missing by a wide margin. You can totally see it. The reactions are way over the top. The sound effects are way over the top. And then it pulls back, and we realize we've been watching one of Johnny Cage's B movies from back in the 80s, 90s, whatever. And that's the joke. That's the point. That's the whole point and the joke of the whole film. The filmmakers made a deliberately bad-looking fight scene to show us what kind of movies Johnny Cage used to make, and what kind of film they were making here, in a sense, the things that they loved and they were bringing into this. And so he's not making like your big highbrow blockbusters. He made cheese from the very beginning, and that's what they're doing here. They knew exactly what they were doing. That's the whole point. If you go watch something like Pray for Death with Sho Kosugi, I promise you there are punches and kicks missing by 4 and 5 feet with sound effects and reactions happening to them. It is all there, right? And this is part of what they're getting at here. This is the part of the DNA that makes up this film. Now, in the interest of giving you the full picture on this, because I'm not here just to be a cheerleader, I'm here to be honest about what I see. There are legitimate criticism. You got Katana, her storyline takes up too much of the film. Her hero's journey herself about seeking revenge for her father's death. It's competently executed, it's good, but every minute spent with Katana is a minute not spent with Johnny Cage and Kano, who also steals the scenes that he's in this film. And when those two are together on screen, it is absolute gold. Johnny Cage and Kano are where this film is most alive, and it is at its most fun. And the balance is off. You feel it just slightly because it's like, yeah, it's too much Katana. We need to see these guys because this is the kind of movie you established. This is the kind of movie that we need to see. And then there is the CGI. Listen, even accounting for the deliberate video game aesthetic, there are times you could argue that it crosses into from intentional cheese to genuine, you probably could have done a little bit better on that. You could have maybe built a few more practical sets. If you really wanted to throw back to the 80s and 90s, maybe a little bit more practical sets and practical blood and maybe a little less of the CGI. But hey, you're making a video game film here, and you're trying to do that fighting film honestly. So I get it, but those are a couple of things. I mean, the dialogue I'm not picking on. Normally I would pick on the cinematography because it has that whole look to it that I normally don't like, but it is very specifically done for this movie to look like a video game, whereas a lot of movies I don't like today, the way they're shot, because they look like a video game. So this one, on the other hand, is supposed to look that way, so you can't knock it. The dialogue is purposely the way it is, but there are a few things. Nothing is perfect. So the question is it a flawless victory or a fatality? Well, the truth is, it takes a few hits. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. The katana balance issue to me is real. A few CGI moments that could be different. You could get a few more practical effects, things like that. But here's what matters more than any of that. Mortal Kombat 2026 is fun. It is fun. It made me feel like a kid again in the movie theater seeing Mortal Kombat for the first time in 1995 when me and my buddies drove there and saw it after having played the video game all night. That kind of thing is just so rare today. And it doesn't do it in a pandering, nostalgia bait kind of way. It is very genuine in the way that it does it. The way the film commits to it makes it completely entertaining. There are no agendas in this. There are no messages to deliver. There's no deconstructing of heroes. There's nothing like that in here. It is fun without anything to prove, except for it wants you to have a good time for a couple of hours. So to me, that is a flawless victory. Battered, imperfect, a few rounds maybe going to the other side, but you are left standing at the end with a winner. And honestly, it made me look forward to the inevitable third installment that is coming eventually, I promise. So go see it, but go in with the right expectations. Go in with the understanding of what it's trying to do. And if you grew up loving this stuff, you're going to walk out of that theater with the same stupid grin me and my son had on our faces. And that's my take on Mortal Kombat 2026. If you've already seen it, drop your verdict down here. Flawless victory or fatality? You let me know. Let's hear it. And if you want Johnny Cage and you want Kano to come back again and get a little more screen time, we're probably on the same page on that. And this is the kind of no agenda film coverage that you can expect from me when I do film reviews, because nobody's paying me to see anything and nobody's giving me access to anything. But until then, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And if you enjoyed this, hang around. If you want to support a little bit more, my Patreon link is always down there, and you will get your name on every video in lights, looks at my filmmaking, behind the scenes, physical media reviews, and so much more, and everything helps out the channel, and I really do appreciate it. But until next time, be kind, rewind like always. This is Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.
I know.